I have a couple memories of being abroad at various times that I didn't think about at the time that could have gone bad, but didn't turn out that way. When I, 25 female, was newly 16 in 2011, I went to China on a 10-day trip for high school students, sponsored by our local Midwestern university. On one occasion, we were in a large market on the basement level of a shopping center in Beijing. I can't remember exactly where. We were supposed to be using the buddy system, and I was buddies with a boy I've stayed friends with over the years. While looking around the large market, we got separated for a few minutes visiting different stalls, but I just assumed my friend was close by and could see me. I walked into a shop stall by myself to look at some of those tacky souvenir canvas bags that you can find in any major city. I browsed for a couple of minutes, not paying attention to the fact that I was the only one in the stall when a small, middle-aged Chinese woman came up to me and grabbed me tightly around the arm. In broken English, she told me she had more purses and bags in her secret shop and started pulling me towards the back of the store. Taken aback, I said I didn't want to look. In front of me, a man was pushing open a door at the back of the wall that had bags hanging all over that would have appeared to be part of the display. I just remember being incredibly confused and hesitant. She was holding onto my arm so tight it hurt while pulling me forward, and I just remember in that moment looking around quickly. Then I see my 6'2" tall male friend running over. He came and grabbed my other arm, and when she saw him, she immediately let go, walked off, and the man shut the door. I don't know exactly what was going on, but I do know that I was very young and naive at that time, and that I'm very fortunate I had a watchful friend. When I was 20, I spent a semester abroad in Copenhagen. I lived in a house in a suburb just north of the city, and I had spent the evening having some drinks with friends in the city center. I was the only friend who lived in that direction, so I got on the S train by myself. I did this every day to get to and from class. A male friend offered to go with me, but I didn't want to inconvenience him with an extra trip, so I declined. The train ride was 20 to 30 minutes, and at the second stop, a dark-haired middle-aged man sat down across from me. Even though I had been drinking, I wasn't drunk, and by this point in my life, I had learned how to just be a little more careful of my surroundings. I busied myself with my phone, and he asked me how I was in Danish. Many people assumed I was because I'm pale and blonde. My barely possible Danish was even worse if I had any alcohol, so I apologized and said that I only spoke English. In choppy English, he said that he was Spanish and didn't speak much English himself. I just smiled and nodded, hoping he would understand that we couldn't talk. However, he kept trying to ask me questions, though. I decided to be polite and ask how he was doing in my incredibly poor Spanish. He took that as an invitation to ask more questions, and I could barely understand a thing. He was visibly frustrated I couldn't converse with him, and then tried to ask if I was with friends or if I was from here. Subtle red flags. I thought about getting off the train early, but I didn't want to get lost. I had only been there a few weeks at this point. 10 minutes later, I got to my stop and got off the train. I very much noticed he also got off the train just before the door closed. Usually, I walk home. It was a 15-minute walk from the station to my house, and on normal days, it was a pleasant walk through a residential neighborhood. He followed me through the tunnel under the tracks to the other side, and luckily a city bus was outside the station. I immediately got on, showed the driver my pass, and sat right behind him. It was late at night, and I was the only one on the bus. The driver must have been perceptive and understood something was amiss, because he looked at me and asked in English, not Danish, where my stop was. I told him, and he closed the door right after. As the bus pulled away, I saw the Spanish man standing outside the station, staring at me through the windows. He turned away and walked back through the tunnel under the station towards the platform. Both experiences were a combination of good timing and understanding people, but it is frustrating to think that I should have, had the help of a male friend in these scenarios. The world isn't a friendly place. I used to live in Orlando in a somewhat shady part of town. The 5 deadbolts on the apartment door should have raised some red flags, but I was a student, and there were a lot of students in the area, and I was young and not yet wary. Our less nice part of town bordered a very nice part of town. There was a 4 to 6 lane road that ran through the area and a jogging path that ran alongside of it. Our apartment complex was right next to the road and the trail, and a little further down was my local gas station where I would walk once a day to buy cigarettes and other things. Because of the layout, it was easy for me to walk out my door, step on the path, and walk the 10 minutes to the gas station. Walking through the complex took longer. I often ended up taking this walk at night. Sure, I was a girl walking alone, but the path bordered this huge road with a lot of traffic, and right across the street was a busy strip mall with fast food places and such. So it wasn't like a dark path in the woods or anything. And hey, I always brought pepper spray, paid attention to my surroundings, etc. So one night, I head to the gas station around 11 p.m. As I'm walking along the path, I hear something behind me. Turning around, I noticed about 30 yards behind me, there is a car on the trail. Like, it had to have pulled off the road and pulled up onto the path. I'm stopped and staring, and a guy gets out of the driver's side and starts walking around the grass between the trail and the road, as though he's looking for something. Oh, I think. Something must have fallen out of his car, and he's pulled over to search for it. I keep walking. As I'm walking, I hear something again behind me. I stop and turn. Guy is now 15 yards behind me, still no headlights, and I turn as he stops the car. Or he stops the car as I turn. Again, he gets out, and it looks like he's searching for something in the grass, but he's closer now, and I'm a little creeped out. I'm not close enough to the gas station, so I pick up the pace. The next time I turn, he's even closer. He stops again when I look, but he doesn't get out of the car now. I don't want to just take off to let him know he scared me, but I am now power walking. My pepper spray is in my hand, but what does pepper spray do against a car? I throw a look over my shoulder, and he's only a few yards behind me. He doesn't stop this time. The distance is closing. Fuck it. I take off. I judge the distance to the gas station to be too far along the trail, but there are some trees and stuff on the other side of the path from the road, so I bolt into them, through them, and through a little ditch towards the light of the station, which is now right in front of me. I felt like the dude in the car was going fast. I look behind me as I'm running through the ditch, and I see him through the space in the trees. His car slows down, and he's just cruising along the section of path I left. I continue my sprint to the gas station, where I know I'll feel safe. The owners and employees all know me. I made it out in front, and I'm catching my breath, watching the part of the jogging path that meets the intersection. I see the car clearly for the first time. It's one of those brown car-truck combos, with a tan stripe along the side. Dude drives up the trails to the intersection, flips his lights on, and floors it onto the main road, disappearing. Up until that point, I was running on a mix of adrenaline and feeling that maybe I'm being stupid, but better safe than sorry feeling. Once I had made it inside the gas station, I pretty much broke down shaking. To this day, I still don't know what that guy's intentions were. Maybe he didn't even see me and was just looking for something. Maybe he was planning to hit me with his car and drag me off. Maybe he was an asshole that was just trying to scare me. Either way, I had my boyfriend come get me from the gas station, and I never walked alone at night again. Alright, so this takes place a couple of years ago. I was about 16 to 17 years old, 22 female now. I used to work at a well-known fast food restaurant. I typically had to work the closing shift since I had school earlier in the day, so by the time I got home, it was around 11:30 p.m. I had my own car this time, and when I got off work, I used to like to sit in my car, recline the driver's seat back, listen to music, and just chill out. I used to do this because I have helicopter parents, so this was the only real alone time I got without being hovered around. Well, one particular night, I was exhausted. I got stuck with the slow closers, so I got home a little later than normal. I started up my normal routine of sitting in my car, but instead of listening to music and scrolling through my phone, I leaned back and closed my eyes. I didn't fall asleep or anything. I was just listening to myself breathe while taking in the silence of my own company. I don't remember how long I was laying back with my eyes closed, but suddenly I bolted up and saw my mom with an angry face waving frantically at me. She was gesturing at me to come to her immediately. I sighed, and I hurried out of the car towards her. I would like to add, my parents liked to drink, so she was pretty inebriated when I approached her. She grabbed me by the shoulders and hissed, "Who is out here with you?" Confused, I shook her off. "No one, Mom. I was just sitting in my car by myself before I came in." I remember feeling a little annoyed because I thought I was going to get in trouble, but her face soon turned from angry to concerned. "What? Someone was out here. They were looking at you through your window. I came out here because I had a funny feeling, and when they saw me, they took off into the neighbor's yard." She was slurring her words together terribly and was visibly shaking. Being the teenager that I was, I just rolled my eyes and took her inside. I just thought she was a drunk, overprotective parent who got worried that I wasn't inside the house at my normal time. The next morning rolls around. I do my normal school routine, kiss my parents goodbye, and as I'm unlocking my car door, I notice something that stops me, dead in my tracks. I felt a cold sweat creep up on me with a chill sliding down my spine. A forehead and 2 forearm prints were on my driver's side window. I never sat in my car after work again after that. I think about it from time to time, about what would have happened had my mother not come outside to check where I was. Were they looking into my car to break into it? Did they notice me completely defenseless and try to scare me? I have no idea, but I'm glad I never found out.